A young salesman once walked into a meeting where he was surrounded by people twice his age and experience. He had no wealth, no title, and no grand reputation. Yet, by the end of that meeting, every head in the room turned toward him for direction. What did he possess? Not arrogance, not luck, but strategy. He understood the quiet art of outsmarting others, not through deceit, but through mastery of himself. Ladies and gentlemen, imagine for a moment that the world is a great chessboard. Each of us is a player, some rushing their moves, others planning with quiet precision. The game is not about defeating others, it is about learning how to move wisely, deliberately, and with purpose. To outsmart anyone, you must first understand that the sharpest mind is the calmest one in the room. Power is not found in aggression or in the noise of self-importance. It lives in composure, in observation, and in understanding human behavior. The first rule of total dominance is this: master your emotions before they master you. A man who cannot govern his temper is like a city without walls, defenseless against every storm. When you remain calm in the face of chaos, you gain a power that cannot be faked. People trust calmness, they follow it instinctively, because calmness signals strength, and strength commands respect. The second rule is to listen before you speak. Most people hear only to reply, few listen to understand. The one who listens carefully sees what others miss. The flicker of doubt, the tone of insecurity, the truth behind the mask. By truly listening, you gain access to what others hide, and with that understanding, you can navigate any conversation, any deal, any challenge with precision and grace. The third rule is to learn endlessly. Knowledge is the quiet engine of power. Read what others ignore. Study what others dismiss. While they chase entertainment, you chase enlightenment. In time, the world begins to lean in your direction. Not because you demand it, but because you've become the rare individual who knows what he's talking about. The fourth rule: practice the power of silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is strategy. In silence, others reveal themselves. They rush to fill the void with their own thoughts, their fears, and their intentions. Meanwhile, you observe, you learn, you prepare. A wise man once said, "The most dangerous man in the room is the one who speaks last." And finally, the fifth rule, perhaps the most important of all: align your motives with purpose. If your goal is merely to win, you'll find yourself in constant conflict. But if your goal is to grow, to serve, and to build something enduring, then dominance becomes a byproduct of integrity. True power is moral power, the ability to move others not through fear, but through the force of example. You see, to outsmart others is not to trick them. It is to rise above them through wisdom, discipline, and understanding. It is not about manipulation, but mastery. When you think clearly, when you control your impulses, when you act with purpose, you become someone who cannot be rattled, rushed, or ruled by the ignorance of others. True dominance begins not with control over others, but with mastery over one's own mind. That is the foundation of all achievement, the silent source of influence that separates the truly powerful from the merely ambitious. You cannot lead others if you cannot first lead yourself. The mind is the command center of every action, every emotion, and every response. Yet most people move through life as prisoners of their own thoughts, reacting instead of reasoning, obeying their moods instead of their vision. They try to conquer the world while being conquered by their impulses. The man who seeks to outsmart others without first understanding himself is like a sailor who sets out to sea without a compass, drifting wherever the wind blows, mistaking movement for progress. When you master your mind, you gain a clarity that cuts through confusion like a blade through fog. You stop being tossed by circumstances because you've learned that your internal world determines your external results. You realize that the man who controls his thoughts controls his destiny. It is not what happens to us that defines us, but how we choose to interpret and respond to it. Two men can face the same storm. One curses the wind, the other adjusts his sails. The difference lies not in the storm, but in the strength of the mind behind the helm. The first step to mastering the mind is awareness. Watch your thoughts as you would watch the waves of an ocean. See how quickly they rise and fall, how easily they shift from confidence to doubt, from purpose to distraction. Don't condemn them, but study them. Because the moment you observe your mind, you are no longer trapped by it. You begin to direct it. The mind is a servant, it was never meant to be the master. And when you reclaim that authority, when you become conscious of your own inner dialogue, you begin to shape reality itself. Most people underestimate the quiet power of focus. They scatter their attention on trivialities, wondering why their energy never seems to build into momentum. A man with a disciplined mind directs his focus like a laser. He knows what matters and he protects it fiercely. He doesn't allow gossip, worry, or negativity to rent space in his consciousness. His time is not spent on complaints or comparison, but on creation. And creation, my friends, is the true exercise of power. Mastery of the mind also means mastery of emotion. You will never outthink the world if you cannot outfeel your fears. Emotions are not to be suppressed, but understood and guided. Fear can become courage, anger can become energy, sadness can become wisdom, if you learn to transmute them through awareness and purpose. The man who can remain steady when others panic, calm when others rage, focused when others drift, he becomes magnetic. People follow him not because he demands it, but because his composure radiates security. In a world of confusion, such a man becomes the lighthouse by which others steer their course. Outsmarting anyone is a matter of observation, patience, and timing. The man who sees clearly, waits calmly, and acts deliberately will always find himself several steps ahead of those who rush blindly into action. Most people are too eager to prove themselves, too restless to wait, and too distracted to notice the details that reveal the truth. But life, like chess, rewards those who study the board before making a move. To observe is to see beneath the surface, beyond appearances, into the quiet patterns that shape behavior and outcome. It is to understand that every person, every situation, every opportunity carries its own rhythm, and the one who listens to that rhythm gains an advantage that force can never achieve. Observation begins with silence. When you are silent, the world starts to speak. People reveal more through their tone than their words, more through their pauses than their speeches. In conversation, the impatient man tries to dominate the dialogue, while the wise man studies the dance of expression, gesture, and reaction. He listens not just with his ears, but with his eyes and intuition. He notices what is said and what is carefully avoided. And in doing so, he collects the information others give away freely without ever realizing it. Observation is the art of seeing what others overlook because they are too busy talking about themselves. Patience is the second element of this triad. Patience is not passivity, it is power under control. It is the discipline to wait until the right moment, to resist the impulse to act prematurely. Every fruit has its season. The man who plucks it too soon robs himself of sweetness. In human affairs, timing is everything. The patient thinker knows that while others chase instant gratification, he builds understanding. While others rush to respond, he absorbs, measures, and plans. He knows that success rarely favors the fastest, but rather the most prepared. The world bows to those who can remain still when others tremble, who can endure the tension between opportunity and action without breaking. Timing, the final element, is the bridge between knowledge and power. Knowing when to act is as vital as knowing what to do. Life presents countless doors, but only a few open when knocked upon at the right hour. The wise learn to sense that moment, not through guesswork, but through observation and patience combined. When the time is right, their action seems effortless, almost magical, yet it is merely the result of quiet preparation meeting perfect opportunity. Those who rush too soon or hesitate too long miss the delicate balance where destiny waits. To outsmart others is not to manipulate them. It is to read the field, understand the moment, and align your movements with precision. It is to play the long game while others play for immediate applause. The observer, patient and poised, does not need to boast. He lets the results speak, and they always do, because mastery of observation, patience, and timing makes one not only intelligent, but unshakably wise. Emotional discipline is the greatest weapon a man can wield. The world often teaches us to sharpen our intellect, to strengthen our bodies, to accumulate wealth or influence. But the one who can master his emotions possesses a power that transcends all of these. Emotions are forces of immense energy, invisible currents that steer our decisions, color our perception, and define the tone of our lives. They can lift us to greatness or drag us into ruin, depending on whether we control them or allow them to control us. Most people are not defeated by others, they are defeated by their reactions. The man who learns to remain steady when life tries to shake him stands on ground that no storm can erode. To discipline emotion is not to suppress it, but to understand it. Every feeling that arises carries a message, a signal of how we interpret our world. Anger, fear, jealousy, excitement, and hope each have their place, but none deserve command over the mind. When emotion rules, reason sleeps. And when reason sleeps, mistakes multiply. The wise man does not ignore emotion, he observes it, studies it, and then chooses his response. He does not lash out in anger, for he knows anger blinds judgment. He does not tremble in fear, for he understands that fear feeds on imagination. He does not surrender to despair, because he recognizes that emotion, like the tide, always changes. He knows that feelings are temporary, but the consequences of ungoverned feelings can be permanent. True emotional mastery is developed in moments of discomfort. It is easy to be calm when the road is smooth and the skies are clear. The real test comes when life challenges you, when you are criticized unfairly, when plans collapse, when success seems far away. That is when emotional discipline is forged. Each time you resist the urge to react impulsively, you strengthen the muscle of composure. Each time you choose patience over panic, understanding over anger, calm over chaos, you rise a little higher in command of yourself. The man who can keep his head when all others lose theirs has already won a silent battle no one else can see. Emotional discipline also gives birth to influence. People naturally follow those who remain composed under pressure. They trust the one whose emotions do not sway with the wind, who can be steady in decision, kind in disagreement, and rational in adversity. Such a person becomes a pillar in a world of volatility, a source of confidence when others are uncertain. His presence brings calm, his words carry weight, and his actions inspire stability. This is the essence of true leadership, not dominance through fear or authority, but mastery through emotional steadiness. When you command your emotions, you become the master of your fate. Life will continue to present its storms, but your peace will not depend on the weather. You will move with intention, act with clarity, and speak with strength that flows not from the noise of feeling, but from the quiet certainty of understanding. The calm thinker always wins against the loud persuader. In every room, in every debate, in every decision, there are those who believe that noise is power, that by raising their voice they raise their influence. But real strength does not need to announce itself. True confidence speaks softly, for it is certain of its position. The calm thinker does not compete for attention, he commands it by his composure. While others rush to prove themselves, he observes, reflects, and responds with precision. In the long run, it is always the one who keeps his head who guides those who lose theirs. The world often mistakes volume for conviction. Yet conviction, like truth, does not require shouting. When a man speaks from a mind that is quiet, his words carry depth. They are not scattered by emotion, but sharpened by thought. The loud persuader argues to win approval. The calm thinker reasons to understand. And understanding, my friends, is where real influence begins. The man who understands human nature, who listens before he speaks, who considers before he acts, holds an authority that no display of temper or pride can imitate. People may resist the loud man's demand, but they yield willingly to the quiet man's wisdom. Calmness is a rare form of power because it is born of self-control. It is the visible evidence of an inner order. When you can remain composed while others argue, when you can think while others react, you occupy a higher ground. The calm thinker sees angles the loud persuader cannot, for noise clouds perception. He studies not only what is said, but why it is said, not only what is seen, but what is hidden beneath the surface. He understands that truth reveals itself to the patient, not to the aggressive. In every negotiation, in every conflict, it is calmness that opens the door to insight. To remain calm is not weakness, it is mastery. It requires discipline to withhold a quick retort, courage to pause before acting, and wisdom to choose silence over confrontation. The calm thinker knows that emotion is a thief. It steals clarity, distorts reasoning, and turns opportunity into chaos. By choosing composure, he keeps his judgment intact, and when the moment for action arrives, his decision is swift, clear, and effective because it has been distilled through stillness. The calm thinker becomes magnetic to others because people crave stability. In a noisy world, calmness feels like truth. It attracts trust, diffuses tension, and restores order. Even those who disagree with him feel drawn to his steadiness. They sense that he is not fighting for victory, but for understanding. That is why, over time, the calm thinker always wins, not by overpowering others, but by outlasting them, by maintaining clarity when confusion reigns, and by proving that peace of mind is not the absence of struggle, but the strength to remain unshaken within it. Knowledge becomes power only when applied with precision. The libraries of the world are filled with books no one has read. The minds of men are crowded with ideas they never use, and the world itself is full of information that remains dormant because so few take the time to translate understanding into action. Knowing is not enough, it is doing, directed by understanding, that transforms potential into progress. The difference between the ordinary and the extraordinary lies not in what they know, but in what they do with what they know. Every man is surrounded by opportunities, but only the one who applies knowledge with clarity and purpose turns those opportunities into achievement. Knowledge by itself is like raw ore buried deep within the earth, valuable but useless until refined. To apply it with precision, one must first discern what matters and what does not. The wise man studies not merely to gather facts, but to separate the vital few from the trivial many. He learns to recognize principles that endure while the crowd chases novelty. He understands that wisdom is not an accumulation but a distillation. It is the ability to see patterns, to connect cause and effect, to foresee the outcomes of action before taking it. Most people move without direction, reacting instead of reasoning, collecting bits of information that never merge into a clear understanding. But the man who takes one principle, one truth, and lives it thoroughly will achieve more than the one who skims 1,000 ideas without mastering any. Precision in knowledge means application in the right measure, at the right time, for the right reason. The surgeon's skill lies not in knowing anatomy alone, but in applying that knowledge with exactness. The artist's genius is not in imagination alone, but in translating vision into form, so it is in every area of life. The effective man does not act randomly, he acts deliberately. He doesn't swing wildly hoping for results, he measures, calculates, and executes with focus. When knowledge is guided by understanding and understanding directed by intention, success becomes inevitable. But precision also demands humility. The wise man knows that knowledge evolves, that learning never ends. He is willing to unlearn, to adjust, to refine his understanding as experience teaches him more. He is not rigid in opinion but firm in principle. Knowledge without humility becomes arrogance, and arrogance blinds judgment. The man who seeks mastery must remain a student forever, constantly testing his assumptions against reality. He measures success not by how much he knows, but by how accurately he applies what he knows to improve himself, his work, and the world around him. Knowledge is power only when it moves from the mind into the bloodstream of daily life. It must shape habits, guide speech, direct action, and refine character. When thought becomes behavior and principle becomes practice, knowledge transforms into mastery, and mastery into quiet. Enduring power, listening deeper than others speak, is the secret to understanding human nature. Most people hear words, few hear meaning. They wait impatiently for their turn to reply, rehearsing responses while the other person is still talking. Yet the man who truly listens gains an advantage that cannot be bought, borrowed, or imitated. He learns not just what is said, but what is felt. He perceives tone, rhythm, hesitation, and silence, the subtle language beneath speech that reveals far more than words ever could. Listening is not a passive act, it is an art, a discipline, a quiet form of intelligence that opens doors to insight, influence, and connection. To listen deeply requires humility. It means setting aside the ego's need to dominate the conversation and giving full attention to another human being. The wise listener knows that everyone he meets knows something he does not. Every person carries a world of experiences, beliefs, and emotions within them. The patient listener draws this world out, while the careless talker tramples over it. The moment you stop trying to impress and start trying to understand, you move from conversation to discovery. People open themselves to those who listen without judgment because they feel seen, not as competitors in dialogue, but as valued souls being heard. The man who listens more than he speaks becomes a student of life. He gathers truth from many sources, each conversation, each story, each complaint, each confession. While others chase attention, he collects knowledge. He sees patterns in human behavior, motives behind words, lessons hidden in emotion. He learns what people want, what they fear, what they dream about but rarely confess. In business, this makes him persuasive. In friendship, it makes him trusted. In leadership, it makes him wise. Listening grants him the blueprint of human nature itself. To listen deeply also requires patience. It is not enough to remain silent while others talk. One must be fully present, attuned, and receptive. This means observing not only the message but the messenger, watching eyes, posture, and energy. Often the truth reveals itself between sentences, in the brief pause or the faint tremor of tone. The listener who pays attention to such details hears what others miss. And in that unseen layer of understanding lies his advantage. The world rewards those who know people, and you cannot know people without listening to them. Deep listening transforms relationships and sharpens intuition. It teaches empathy, the ability to feel what others feel without losing your center. It refines communication because the one who listens well speaks wisely. His words are not random but relevant, born of understanding rather than assumption. People trust him because his responses mirror insight, not impulse. He influences not through force but through comprehension. Listening deeply is not just a skill. It is a way of living that elevates every interaction, strengthens every bond, and reveals truths that remain invisible to those who only hear themselves. Confidence without humility leads to downfall. Humility with confidence leads to influence. There is a delicate balance between the two, and only a few ever master it. Confidence gives a man the courage to act, but humility gives him the wisdom to act rightly. One without the other is like a ship with a strong sail but no rudder. It may move swiftly, but it will drift aimlessly toward destruction. The man who believes too much in his own brilliance soon stops learning, and when he stops learning, he begins to decay. But the one who pairs confidence with humility never stops growing, for he walks the line between certainty and curiosity, strength and grace, ambition and gratitude. True confidence is quiet because it is grounded in understanding, not performance. It does not seek validation, nor does it fear disapproval. It stands firm in principle but remains open to truth. The confident man does not need to prove himself, because he already knows himself. He has measured his strengths and weaknesses, faced his fears, and discovered that courage is not the absence of doubt but the mastery of it. Yet, without humility, confidence hardens into arrogance. Arrogance blinds the mind to correction, deafens the ear to advice, and isolates the soul from wisdom. The proud man cannot be taught, for he believes he already knows, and so he builds walls around his own ignorance, mistaking them for fortresses of strength. Humility, on the other hand, is not meekness. It is awareness of reality. It is knowing that no matter how much one knows, there is always more to learn. No matter how far one has gone, there is always farther to go. The humble man bows not to others, but to truth. He listens more than he speaks, observes more than he boasts, and seeks to understand before seeking to be understood. His humility does not weaken him, it sharpens him. Because he admits he can be wrong, he corrects himself before failure forces him to. Because he values others, he earns their loyalty and trust. Humility transforms knowledge into wisdom and confidence into credibility. Together, confidence and humility form the twin pillars of true influence. The man who embodies both moves with quiet assurance yet never forgets his humanity. People sense his authenticity, they trust him because he respects them. He stands tall without stepping on others. His confidence draws attention, but his humility keeps it. In a world where many chase recognition, he earns respect. And respect, once gained through character, lasts far longer than applause won through vanity. Confidence gives direction, humility gives depth. The one who walks with both walks steadily through the world, undaunted by praise, unbroken by criticism, unshaken by circumstance. He moves forward with purpose, not ego, with strength, not pride, with clarity, not noise. Such a man becomes not just successful, but significant, because he has learned that greatness is never about being above others, but being beyond oneself. Strategic silence often says more than 1,000 clever words. In a world intoxicated by noise, where everyone is eager to speak, to prove, to persuade, silence has become a rare and powerful weapon. The man who understands the strength of silence possesses an invisible authority. He doesn't rush to fill the empty spaces in conversation, because he knows those spaces make others reveal themselves. He understands that words are like currency. Their value depends on how sparingly they are used. When he chooses to speak, his words carry weight, for they are not born from impulse but from intention. Silence refines speech the way stillness refines thought. There is a certain wisdom that grows only in the quiet. Noise blurs perception, silence sharpens it. When you speak constantly, you hear nothing new. But when you listen, when you hold back, the world begins to unfold before you. People show their fears, their ambitions, their insecurities, not through what they claim, but through what they rush to explain. Strategic silence is not emptiness, it is a mirror that reflects truth. The man who remains quiet in a heated moment observes the entire picture, while others, blinded by emotion, expose their weaknesses. Silence also commands respect. In conversation, the one who can remain composed while others grow loud becomes the unspoken authority. His calmness unsettles the impulsive because it cannot be read, cannot be manipulated, cannot be matched. The loud man tries to dominate, the silent man simply observes, and in doing so controls the pace. His restraint forces others to think, to question, to reveal. There is no need for him to declare his strength, it is felt in his presence. Silence, when used with understanding, becomes a language of power that transcends words. Strategic silence is also an act of discipline. It takes strength to resist the urge to explain, to defend, to argue. Most people equate silence with weakness, but the wise know it is control. Silence allows emotions to cool, thoughts to clarify, and wisdom to surface. It prevents the regret that follows hasty words. The man who practices silence knows that every sentence spoken in anger, every unnecessary explanation is energy wasted. By holding his peace, he saves his power for when it truly matters. There are times in life when silence speaks louder than any declaration. It shows confidence in truth, faith in understanding, and mastery of self. When you no longer feel the need to convince others, you have reached a level of freedom that few ever attain. Silence lets time and actions do the talking, and time, my friends, is the most convincing voice of all. The world listens to the one who listens first. It bends toward those who measure their words. The man who embraces silence does not fade into the background. He rises above the noise, seen not because he shouts, but because he never needs to. Every encounter is a classroom. Every person is a teacher in disguise. Life, in its quiet wisdom, hides lessons in plain sight, waiting for the attentive mind to uncover them. The man who sees every moment as an opportunity to learn transforms ordinary experiences into extraordinary education. Most people pass through life distracted, believing learning ends when formal schooling does. Yet the greatest education begins after the last bell rings. It is found in the conversations we hold, the challenges we face, the mistakes we make, and the examples set by those who cross our path. Each interaction, each triumph, and each disappointment carries within it a fragment of truth for the one who watches, listens, and reflects. To see life as a classroom requires humility, the recognition that no one knows everything and everyone knows something. The wise man understands that even the simplest soul can reveal profound insight. A child's curiosity, an elder's patience, a competitor's strategy, a friend's honesty, all become lessons to those willing to learn. The fool dismisses others because he seeks only to speak. The wise man learns from all because he seeks to understand. He listens more than he asserts, observes more than he assumes, and through this quiet observation, he grows richer with each passing day. Every person we meet mirrors something about ourselves. The kind remind us of compassion, the cruel of restraint. The successful show us discipline, the failed show us courage. Even the difficult ones serve a purpose. They test our patience and reveal the strength or fragility of our character. To live as a student of life is to recognize that nothing is wasted, that every event, pleasant or painful, shapes the refinement of one's soul. The wise do not curse misfortune, they study it. They do not resent criticism, they extract from it whatever truth it may hold. Each moment becomes a stepping stone toward mastery, and mastery is never achieved by comfort, but by awareness. Learning from others does not mean imitation, it means interpretation. The lessons you find in another's journey must be adapted, not adopted. You are not here to live as someone else has lived, but to see through their story what you can apply to your own. The businessman learns strategy from failure, the artist learns expression from solitude, the leader learns humility from service. All wisdom, in the end, comes from observation followed by reflection, followed by action. When you live with the understanding that every person you meet holds a piece of the puzzle, you stop judging and start listening. You begin to see beyond appearances and into purpose. You realize that the true scholar of life is never finished learning, never too proud to listen, and never too wise to be taught. The man who embraces this mindset walks through life not as a traveler passing through experiences, but as a seeker collecting treasures of understanding that no wealth can replace. The one who serves a higher purpose always commands quiet respect from those who serve themselves. Life is filled with people chasing temporary gains, seeking applause, recognition, and fleeting victories. Yet there is a profound difference between achievement born of self-interest and achievement born of purpose. The man who dedicates himself to something greater than personal ambition moves through the world with an invisible authority. He may not boast, he may not demand attention, but people sense the weight of meaning behind his actions. Purpose, unlike ego, does not fade, it leaves a lasting impression because it is anchored in principle, not circumstance. Serving a higher purpose begins with clarity of intention. The man who outshines others does not do so to dominate or impress. He does so because he knows why he is here and what he is here to accomplish. He aligns his daily actions with that understanding and in doing so, transforms ordinary effort into extraordinary influence. While others chase status, he pursues substance. While others react to the whims of the moment, he acts in harmony with his mission. Purpose gives direction to talent, discipline to desire, and endurance to effort. Without it, even the most intelligent and capable person drifts through life, subject to the currents of circumstance, admired superficially but forgotten quickly. Those who serve themselves often lack the patience to recognize greatness. They are noisy, impatient, and consumed by comparison. Yet they cannot help but notice the man who serves a higher cause, because his influence is subtle, pervasive, and undeniable. His work, his integrity, and his commitment speak louder than any words ever could. People are drawn to him not by charisma alone, but by the authenticity of his dedication. When you operate from purpose, you do not compete with others, you elevate them simply by being steadfast in your own path. Leadership and influence arise naturally when the foundation is built on service rather than self-interest. The man with purpose also develops resilience that the self-serving cannot comprehend. Obstacles are no longer burdens but lessons, failures no longer shame but feedback, and criticism no longer wounds but illuminates. Every challenge becomes a stepping stone because his focus is on the horizon, not on fleeting approval or applause. Purpose strengthens character because it transcends the trivialities of ego, money, or recognition. It transforms work into calling, struggle into growth, and action into legacy. Serving a higher purpose demands humility, courage, and perseverance. It requires the ability to remain patient when results are delayed, to act ethically when shortcuts are tempting, and to keep moving forward even when the world does not notice. Yet it is in this quiet, unwavering dedication that true respect is earned. People may not immediately understand, they may not acknowledge, but they feel it. Purpose resonates on a level deeper than ego. It commands attention without demanding it, influences without controlling, and endures far longer than any transient achievement. When you align yourself with a purpose larger than personal gain, you become unstoppable. Your energy, your decisions, and your actions acquire a coherence that others cannot imitate. In serving something beyond yourself, you rise above the competition not by overpowering them, but by transcending them through meaning, integrity, and enduring focus.